Have a seat, today's tea is bitter, but still sweeter than the price the villain in this story is about to pay. May's red ledger has just turned to a new page. Are you ready to claim justice with Reddit Revenge Tales? How do you stay excited when a 16-year-old girl texts your husband, "I think you're your dad," and your whole kitchen suddenly feels unfamiliar? That was my Tuesday night plates piled by the sink, my boys yelling at the Xbox, and my husband going so quiet it was like someone muted him. His phone buzzed. He stared too long. Then he slid it across the counter to me with hands that didn't look like his. "Hi. I think you're my dad." I smiled on instinct, because that's what wives do while my stomach dropped hard. In one message, the life we built didn't feel steady anymore, and I couldn't stop one terrifying thought. Where do I fit now? So if you've ever had your safe place shaken by one unexpected message, stay with me, because what happened next at our front door changed every single person under this roof. I'm Melissa. I'm 42. Daniel and I have been married for 13 years, 3 boys, a golden retriever that sheds like it's his job, a quiet suburb outside Columbus where life runs on routines, school drop-offs, grocery lists, and whatever's for dinner. That's why the message hit like a slap. Daniel didn't hesitate. He didn't angle the screen away. He just unlocked his phone and placed it in my hand, like he needed me to see it with my own eyes. No secrets. No excuses. Then she sent a photo, and I swear I stopped breathing for a second. Same eyes. Same nose. That little uneven grin Daniel makes when he's trying not to laugh. It wasn't a maybe. It was a mirror. Daniel sank into the kitchen chair, like his legs forgot what to do. He kept staring at the picture, blinking hard, like he could blink it back into something else. All I could think was this wasn't part of the life we built. And yet, it was already in our house. We stayed at the kitchen table long after the boys went back to the living room. The Xbox noise filled the gaps whenever one of us stopped talking. Daniel scrolled up, reading her messages again, slow, careful, like he was afraid to miss a single word. Her name was Ava. She wrote that her mom died 3 years ago. Cancer. No long speech about it, just a line that sat there like a bruise. She said she'd been living with her uncle since then. 30 minutes from us. 30 minutes. Close enough to make me sick. Then she typed, "I've wanted to reach out for a long time." I was scared. That line did something to Daniel. His shoulders dropped and his voice got quiet in a way I'd never heard. Not angry, not defensive, just hollow. "I missed 16 years, he said barely above a whisper. "All of it." I looked at him and saw it real regret. Not guilt, not cheating. Something worse grief for time you can't get back. And I knew this wasn't going to be a simple good news story. That night after the house finally went quiet, I walked past the boys' rooms and paused in each doorway. Ethan sprawled sideways like he owned the world. Lucas was curled up with his blanket pulled to his chin. Noah had one sock off, like he'd fought sleep and lost. I stood there and felt my chest tighten for a reason I couldn't explain. What am I supposed to feel right now? Because part of me kept flashing to something I'd never really said out loud. I always wondered what a daughter would have been like. Someone to shop for prom dresses with someone who might actually want to talk to me when she's older. And the second that thought showed up, guilt followed right behind it. Like I was betraying my own boys for even thinking it. Back in the kitchen, Daniel typed a message to Ava. "You can come over this weekend, if you want." He looked at me, waiting. I nodded like it was easy. But my hands were ice cold around my mug because now it wasn't a message anymore. It was a knock at our door. The next day I cleaned the living room like we were hosting Thanksgiving. Not because it was messy, because I needed something I could control. I shoved Legos into a bin lined up the throw pillows, wiped the coffee table until the wood looked too shiny. I even picked up the boys' shoes by the couch and carried them to their rooms one pair at a time. Like that would keep my head from spinning. Halfway through, I changed my shirt, then changed it again. The second one felt too trying. The first one felt too careless. I snapped at myself in the mirror. Get it together, Melissa. Daniel watched me from the doorway, quiet. You don't have to do all this, he said. No attitude. Just tired. I know, I answered, still wiping the same spot, but I'm going to. Anyway. Because this wasn't about dust. It was about making room for a girl I'd never met, without losing my place in the home I'd built. And when the weekend came, I kept checking the front window waiting for a car I didn't recognize. By Saturday afternoon, I'd checked the front window so many times I started pretending I was just looking for the mail. Then a silver Honda turned onto our street and slowed in front of our house. My throat went tight. It pulled into the driveway, and for a second, nobody got out. Then the passenger door opened, and Ava stepped down like she wasn't sure she was allowed to take up space. Her shoulders were drawn in, and one hand gripped her backpack strap so hard. Her knuckles looked pale. Behind her came Uncle Mark, mid-50s, work boots, ball cap, scanning the yard and the windows, like he was checking for danger. Not rude, just protective. Like he'd learned the hard way that adults don't always show up right. I opened the door before I could overthink it. My voice came out a little higher than normal. Hi, sweetheart. Ava's eyes landed on me first. Not Daniel. Me. Like she needed to know who I was before she could decide if this was safe. And I realized this wasn't just Daniel's moment. It was mine, too. Daniel stood frozen for one beat, like his body had to catch up to what his heart already knew. Then he moved fast, too fast, stopping himself right in front of her like he didn't want to scare her off. Hey, he said, and his voice cracked on that one word. He leaned in and hugged her, but not tight. More like he was asking permission with his arms. Ava's whole body tensed, just a small shiver, and for a split second, I thought she might pull away. She didn't. She stayed. And Daniel closed his eyes like he was trying to memorize the feeling. I stepped forward and held out my hand first, because I didn't know what else to do. Ava looked at my hand, then at my face, like she was measuring me. Hi, I said, again softer. I'm Melissa. Her fingers touched mine, hesitant. Then quick light, she leaned in and hugged me. Not a mom hug, more like a test. And it hit me hard. This girl wasn't here to take anything. She was here, hoping someone would choose her. After the hugs, we did what people do when they don't know what to do. We went to the kitchen table. I set down 4 glasses with ice and slid the little paper napkin holder closer. Like that could make everyone less nervous. Ava sat on the edge of her chair. Backpack still looped around one arm like she might need to leave fast. She answered questions, but softly. Short sentences. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Like she'd practiced being easy. Uncle Mark filled in the blanks when she hesitated. Not in a controlling way, more like he didn't want her to get cornered. Daniel asked about school. What grade are you? In junior, she said. What do you like? Ava's eyes lifted a little. Art class. I like drawing. Daniel smiled like that meant something bigger than it should. And I caught myself watching his face instead of hers. That's when it clicked. She wasn't here asking for money or attention. She was here asking for a place, a name, a spot where she belonged. We were still at the table when the front door banged open, and the house filled up all at once, backpacks hitting the floor, sneakers squeaking, boys talking over each other like they always do. Ethan stopped first, 12 years old and suddenly very aware of the stranger in our kitchen. He didn't say anything, just stared like he was trying to solve a math problem in his head. Lucas came straight to me, pressed against my hip, fingers grabbing my shirt. Noah, because Noah has zero filter, looked right at Ava and said, "Who are you?" The air got tight. Ava's face went pink. She gave this small, careful smile like she was bracing for impact. "I'm your sister," she said. 2 seconds of silence. Exactly 2. Long enough to feel like a test. Then Noah laughed, confused more than amused, and Ethan forced out a little chuckle like he didn't want to be mean. I heard my own laugh join in, thin, polite, but inside I was thinking, this is the moment. This is where our normal starts to break and either becomes something stronger or something messy. After the boys ran off to the living room, Ava stayed at the table with her hands folded like she was trying to take up less space. Daniel asked gentle questions, too. Gentle like he was afraid the wrong word would make her disappear. Then Ava started talking about her mom. No tears, no shaky voice. She said it like she'd told the story to guidance counselors and doctors and strangers who didn't know what to do with her grief. Dates, hospital. She got worse fast. Just facts. My chest got tight anyway. The kind of tight where you can't tell if you're angry or heartbroken. Daniel swallowed hard. Why? Why didn't I know? Why didn't she tell me? Ava looked down at the table. Mom said it wasn't worth it. That landed like a punch. Not because it was cruel, because it sounded like something a tired, scared woman might actually say. I glanced at Daniel. This wasn't his fault. He didn't cheat. He didn't hide her. But pain doesn't care whose fault it is. It still shows up and takes a seat. When it was time for them to leave, Ava stood so fast, her chair scraped the floor. She hugged Daniel again, still cautious, but a little longer this time. Then she gave me a quick, polite hug, like she didn't want to push her luck. Uncle Mark nodded once. "Thanks," he said, and I couldn't tell if he meant it or was just being careful. The silver Honda backed out of our driveway and turned the corner. Daniel stayed on the porch, watching the empty street, like he expected it to come back. Not for a second. For way too long. I went to the kitchen and started washing the glasses, even though they were already clean. The water ran hot over my hands. It gave me something to do besides feel. Behind me, Daniel's voice was low. "I want to see her every day." My first reaction was shock. My second was something softer. I said me too because part of me meant it. Then I swallowed the rest of the sentence. I'm just scared of what that does to us. That night after the boys were finally down, Daniel asked if we could call Ava. He didn't say it like a question, more like he was afraid I'd say no. He propped his phone against a cereal box on the counter. The screen rang twice. Then Ava's face popped up. Bedroom light hair pulled back that same cautious look, like she was ready to be judged. Daniel smiled. Not his normal smile. Wider. Younger. Like something in him had been starving, and finally got fed. I sat beside him close enough that I was in the frame but still felt slightly out of place, like I was sitting in the wrong seat at my own table. They talked about nothing at first. School. A teacher she liked. A drawing she was working on. Then Ava's voice dropped. "I didn't think you'd want me." Daniel's face changed so fast it scared me. Before he could even answer, my mouth moved first. "You're welcome here," I said. Simple, no speech, and the second it left my lips, I surprised myself because I meant it even with my stomach still tight. After that, Ava didn't feel like a stranger on a screen. She became part of our days. It started small, a text from Daniel in the morning. She said good luck on your meeting. A photo from Ava of a sketch she'd done in art class. Sharp lines, serious talent. Daniel would send back a dumb meme, and she'd reply with a shy little lol like she wasn't used to laughing out loud. I found myself asking questions I didn't plan to ask. What do you like to eat? Do you have a favorite candy? Are you a Coke or Dr. Pepper girl? I was at Kroger one afternoon, doing the usual milk bread chicken, and I caught myself tossing teen stuff into the cart without thinking. Hot Cheetos. Strawberry Pop-Tarts. Those little iced coffees in the bottle. When I got home and put everything away, I just stood there staring at the pantry for a second, because without anyone announcing it, I'd started making room. And that scared me almost as much as it warmed me. A few days later, I was putting groceries away, when Daniel said it casual, like he was talking about the weather. I want Ava to move in. I froze with a carton of eggs in my hand, not because I didn't care about her, because my brain immediately started doing that mom math. Women don't get credit for where she'd sleep, what school she'd go to, who drives her, what the custody laws even look like, how my boys would react when a teenage girl suddenly has a toothbrush in our bathroom. I set the eggs down like they might crack if I breathed wrong. "Daniel," I said, keeping my voice steady, "what does Mark think?" He didn't answer right away. He stared at the counter, jaw tight. "I haven't asked him," he admitted. "I'm scared." That word hit me harder than the request, because it meant he wasn't just excited. He was desperate. Like if he didn't grab this now, it would disappear. And suddenly I realized this wasn't a discussion about logistics. It was a fight against lost time. After that call with Jenna, I started watching Daniel in a way I hadn't in years. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I didn't trust what this was doing to us. He was still the same man in all the obvious ways. Up at 6, packing lunches, driving the boys to school, fixing the leaky faucet like it was no big deal, taking the trash out without me asking. He didn't stop being a husband or a dad. But his eyes kept drifting to his phone, not in a sneaky way, in a hungry way. Like every buzz might be Ava. Like if he missed one message, he'd lose her again. And I hated the thought that popped into my head one afternoon. When he smiled at a text, I felt jealous. Jealous of a 16-year-old girl who lost her mom. The shame hit right after sharp and immediate. I'd stand at the sink scrubbing a pan too hard, telling myself to be better than that, because what kind of woman competes with a child? And still, I couldn't stop feeling like someone had quietly shifted the furniture in my life, and I was the only one tripping over it. Ava came over again the next weekend. I made pasta because it's safe. Nobody argues with pasta. Sauce simmering garlic on my hands, the boys circling like they do when they smell food. Ava hovered in the doorway like she didn't want to take up space. "Is it okay if I sit here?" she asked, pointing at a chair she'd already sat in last time. "Of course," I said, trying not to let my face show how much that question hurt. Every little thing was like that. "Is it okay if I use the bathroom? Is it okay if I get some water? Is it okay if I pet the dog?" It wasn't politeness. It was survival. Like she'd learned the safest way to exist was to stay small. After dinner, Daniel pulled out a family photo album, one of those thick ones with plastic sleeves. He started flipping through pictures of our boys when they were babies. Ava leaned in, smiling softly. Then I saw her swallow hard, like she was tasting something she'd never been given. After Ava left that second visit, the house didn't go back to normal. It got watchful. Later that night, Ethan lingered in the kitchen while I packed lunches. He pretended he was just getting water, but he didn't leave. "Is she gonna live here now?" he asked, trying to sound casual and failing. Before I could answer, Lucas appeared behind him, eyes wide in that quiet way he gets when he's worried. "Does Dad still love us the same?" He blurted like the question had been sitting in his throat all day. And Noah, sweet blunt Noah, looked up from the floor and said, "Do I have to share my room?" I felt my stomach twist, not because the questions were wrong, because they were fair. I knelt down one kid at a time and told them the truth in the safest words I could find. Nobody's getting replaced. Your dad loves you. You're not losing anything. But as I said it, my hands were shaking just a little, because it hit me this wasn't only about my feelings anymore. This was about the stability of my boys, our whole foundation being tested in real time. The next morning, Daniel got a text from Mark. "Don't confuse her." That was it. No hello. No thanks for dinner. Just a warning. I watched Daniel read it. His jaw tightened. He didn't throw the phone, or curse. He did something worse. He got quiet. Controlled. The kind of quiet that means he's holding himself back. Mark followed up with another message. "Ava's doing okay. Don't make things harder. She doesn't need a bunch of changes right now." Daniel stared at the screen like he was reading a verdict. "She's doing okay," he said out loud, almost laughing, but there was no humor in it. "Her mom is gone. She's 16. She didn't even know if her dad would answer. That's not okay." Then he typed slow and deliberate, "She deserves her dad." I stood there, arms crossed, feeling the air shift again. Because up until now, this had been emotional, tender, new. But Mark's message made it clear. This was about to turn into something else. A fight not over a teenager, but over who gets to call her family. Daniel decided he was done texting. "I'm meeting Mark," he said. Not angry. Final. Face to face. I went with him because I wasn't about to let this turn into two men fighting over a girl while she sat at home, wondering if she was the problem. We met at a diner off the highway. Vinyl booths, burnt coffee, smell an old jukebox that didn't work. Mark was already there, sitting straight up, like he'd been waiting to get it over with. Daniel didn't waste time. "I'm not trying to take her from you. I'm trying to be her dad." Mark didn't blink. "You weren't there for 16 years. Daniel's throat worked like he was swallowing glass. "I didn't know." Mark leaned back, eyes hard. Then he looked at me like I was the one he needed to measure. "You really think you can handle this?" he asked. "A teenage girl walking into your house, your boys, your marriage." I didn't flinch, but inside I felt the hit land, because he wasn't wrong to ask, and I wasn't sure I had the answer. On the drive home, Daniel didn't talk, not even radio, just the sound of tires and the turn signal clicking too loud. I watched his hands on the steering wheel tight white at the knuckles. Finally, I said, "Don't turn this into a war." He kept staring straight ahead. Then just once, he slapped the heel of his hand against the steering wheel. Not out of control. Just enough to show me how much he was holding back. "I already lost too much," he said. His voice cracked on lost. "I'm not losing her now because he's scared." I swallowed. I wanted to be the supportive wife, the bigger person, the calm one. But the truth came out anyway, quiet and sharp. And I'm about to lose my peace, I said. My boys feel it. I feel it. This house feels it. Daniel's jaw tightened, but his eyes softened for half a second like he heard me. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about Ava choosing us. It was about whether Daniel and I could choose each other. While we chose her, after that drive home, the house felt tense in a quiet way, like everyone was trying not to make it worse. Daniel was in the garage organizing, which is what he does when he's angry and doesn't want to admit it. I was in the laundry room folding towels when my phone rang. Ava. Not a group call. Not Daniel's phone. Mine. I stared at the screen for half a second before I answered like I didn't trust my own voice. Hi, honey. There was a pause. Then her words came out small. Do you hate me? I tightened my grip on a t-shirt in my hands. It was one of Noah's, a little dinosaur on the front. My throat went hard. No, I said, and I meant it. I don't hate you. I'm just adjusting. She let out a tiny breath like she'd been holding it for days. Then she whispered, I don't want to ruin your family. That sentence hit me right in the middle of my chest, because it told me she'd already decided she was the problem. And I knew I couldn't let her carry that alone. Listen to me, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. You're not ruining anything. On the other end, I heard her sniff, like she was trying to swallow her feelings before they showed. I stared at the dryer the way it kept turning like nothing in the world had changed. You didn't ask for this, I told her. And neither did we. But that doesn't make you the bad guy. She didn't speak, so I filled the silence with the truest thing I had. Everyone deserves a seat at the table, I said. Not because they're perfect. Because they're family. Ava's crying wasn't loud. It was that quiet kind breath-catching, like she didn't want anyone to hear her falling apart. I took one slow breath. We're going to do this the right way. No rushing. No fighting. No making you feel like you have to earn love. Okay? She whispered. Okay. When we hung up, I slid down onto the laundry room floor with my back against the cabinet, and for the first time since that Facebook message, I let myself feel how scared I'd been without trying to look strong for anyone. The next night, after the boys were finally in bed, Daniel and I sat at the kitchen table with my planner open, and his phone out. No romance. No big speech. Just the two of us doing what parents do when life punches the schedule. We talked school zones first. If Ava stayed with us, where would she go? Who would drive? What about after school? What about her grades? Then the bedroom question. Our guest room is really just a storage room with a bed. We'd have to clear it out, make it hers. Daniel said I'll handle the paperwork. Whatever needs to be filed, I'll do it. I nodded, then pushed back, gently but firm. And the boys need time. We can't just drop a teenager into their lives and call it fine. He stared at his hands for a long moment, then said something I didn't expect. I'm scared you're going to leave. I felt my throat tighten. I'm scared too, I admitted. Just different. He looked up. Different how I swallowed. I'm scared I'll turn into someone I hate. A few days later, Ava came over for dinner again. Nothing fancy chicken rice, a bag salad I dumped into a bowl like I had time to be a chef. I set the table the way I always do. And then I stopped and pulled out one more plate. Just one small motion. But it made my heart pound like I was signing something. Ava hovered by the doorway waiting to be told where to stand. Noah saw her first. He didn't overthink it. He walked to the table, grabbed a chair, and pulled it out for her like he'd seen me do 100 times. Here, he said, proud of himself. Ava's eyes flicked to me like she needed permission. I nodded. Sit, honey. Ethan surprised me next. He looked at her and asked, So, what's high school like? Do you have a lot of homework? No edge, just curiosity. Lucas didn't say much, but he didn't hide either. He sat closer than last time, and watching that table fill up, I felt something shift in me, quiet, solid. Love wasn't getting cut into smaller pieces. It was stretching, making room. 2 nights after that dinner, the extra plate dinner, Mark called. Not a text, a call. That alone told me it was bad. Daniel answered on speaker without thinking. Mark's voice came through tight and irritated. She and I just got into it. She's talking about leaving. I can't get through to her. Daniel didn't ask questions. He grabbed his keys like his body moved before his brain did. I followed him out the door. No shoes at first, then I turned back for them because that's who I am. Even in a crisis, I'm thinking about the small stuff. We drove in silence. Daniel's hands were locked on the wheel. When we pulled up, Ava was sitting on the front steps with her backpack hugged to her chest like a shield. Her face was blank, but her leg was bouncing fast. Mark stood in the doorway, arms crossed. She won't listen to me anymore, he said. Ava looked straight at Daniel. No smile, no hello. Just raw. Do I get to choose? Anything she asked. And the air went sharp. Daniel stepped toward her, slowly, palms out like he was approaching something fragile. You're not a burden, he said. You're not a problem to manage. You're my daughter. Mark snapped back immediately. You're saying that now you're late. 16 years late. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he didn't swing at the bait. He swallowed, eyes on Ava. I didn't know. But I'm here now. Mark took a step forward, voice rising. You don't get to blow up her life because you feel guilty. And that's when I moved. Not Daniel. Me. I stepped between them without thinking, like my body chose before my fear could stop it. Don't make her the battlefield. I said, steady and cold. She's a kid. She's standing right here. Ava's face crumpled like she'd been holding herself together with tape. The crying wasn't quiet this time. It came fast, messy, real, her whole body shaking. I didn't look at Mark. I didn't ask permission. I walked right up and wrapped my arms around her, firm, clear, no hesitation. And I felt her grab onto me like she'd been waiting for someone to do that for years. In the car, Ava sat in the back seat with her backpack in her lap like she still didn't trust the moment to last. Daniel drove slower than usual, both hands on the wheel. No radio, just the hum of the road, and Ava's quiet breathing. Halfway home, Daniel cleared his throat. His voice was careful. Do you want to come home? With us? Ava didn't answer right away. She stared out the window like the answer was somewhere in the dark. Then she said, flat and honest, I don't know what home is. Daniel's shoulders dropped. He nodded once like he deserved that. I turned in my seat and looked at her. Not with pity, just truth. Home is where you're safe, I said. Where you don't have to earn your place. Where you're not scared all the time. Ava's mouth tightened like she was trying not to cry again. She didn't say yes, but she gave the smallest nod, barely there. And it hit me hard. That tiny nod was the first time she'd chosen us out loud, without using words. We didn't pretend it would be easy. We did what adults do when they're trying not to mess up a kid. We made rules. Ava would have her own room. Our storage room turned into hers. School would stay the same for now. Therapy would be on the table if she wanted it, and nobody Nobody would pressure her to call me Mom. Not now. Maybe not ever. Daniel sat the boys down at the table and set it straight. My love doesn't get divided, he told them. It doesn't get smaller. You're not losing me. Ethan nodded like he understood. Noah asked if Ava liked cartoons. Lucas stayed quiet, eyes down. That night, Ava fell asleep on the couch with a throw pillow, clutched to her chest like armor. I was about to carry a blanket over when I saw Lucas pad out of his room. He didn't speak. He just laid his favorite blanket over her shoulders and walked back down the hall. Later, I heard Ava's voice soft, almost scared to exist. "Good night, Dad." I stood in the kitchen doorway and let the tears fall silently where nobody could mistake them for weakness. I keep thinking about that first night. How I said I was excited and felt ridiculous for it. Because the truth is, I was excited and terrified. Both can live in the same chest without making you a bad person. The hardest part wasn't Ava. It wasn't Mark. It wasn't the paperwork or clearing out a room. The hardest part was my own quiet fear of being replaced. Where do I fit now? Once I finally named it, I stopped letting it drive me. What I learned is these kids don't need perfect adults. They need steady ones. A clear routine. A safe bed. A home where they don't have to earn their place. And love, real love, doesn't always divide. Sometimes it stretches as long as you keep boundaries and stay kind. Families don't always arrive in the right order. Sometimes life drops a missing piece on your doorstep, and it scrapes on the way in. But making room can be simple and real. One extra chair, one extra plate, and a choice to stay human even while you're hurting. All right. Let May be painfully clear. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern, and it showed up fast. A stranger asked you something stupid at a bar, you said no, and Mark turned you from wife to suspect. That's red flag number 1, suspicion, without proof. Then he started the classic toxic combo, moving the goalpost, demanding the truth after you already gave it, and treating your calm as evidence. That's not concern. That's control wearing a suit. And when someone blocks the exit, when your "I need air" becomes "why are you running?" That's not love. That's a power test. The moment he rewrote the story, you pushed me, you escalated. That's gaslighting 1. Oh, 1. Not loud, not messy, just cold. Tidy cruelty. So here's your takeaway straight up. Your no is a full sentence. You don't audition for basic respect. You don't negotiate reality with someone who benefits from you doubting yourself. If you're hearing this and your stomach drops, trust that. Red flags don't get greener with time. To the villain of this story, karma doesn't need your permission. It just keeps receipts. And to you, sweetheart, this debt, May clears it. But remember, these eyes are always watching. Don't let your name end up on May's blacklist next episode. Hit subscribe, because around here, justice doesn't show up late. It shows up ready. A final note from the library. While these stories find their roots in the halls of Reddit, they are artistically reimagined to speak to the heart. Any likeness to reality is mere coincidence. The emotions, however, are very real. Walk with empathy and let justice lead the way. Thank you for watching.